Be advised, you are coming in weak and unreadable.
Say again, Com Tower. This is Pacho. Do you read me over?
Pacho, this is Con Tower. I read you Lima Charlie.
Com Tower, Com Tower. Request permission to launch and commence a field op. Over.
Stand by. Pacho, permission granted. Say again, permission granted.
Roger that. Launching podcast in 3, 2. You are now entering the field op with your host, Pacho Correa, Chief Warrant Officer 3, United States Marine Corps retired. Get some. Hurrah! Get some. Hurrah! What's going on, everybody? Another Baby Friday is upon us, or Friday Night's Eve, as I also like to call it. But goddamn, thank God it's almost the weekend. Hey, let's get all the pleasantries out of the way. We got, we found a really cool dude that we just want to, I can't wait to tell you all about it. But before we get all that stuff out, we get into that stuff, let's get the pleasantries all out of the way. This show is brought to you by Primerica. Hey, did you know that with as little as $25, you can start your own individual retirement account, an IRA, as they call it? What do I mean by that? Well, while it's great that you have a 401k at your job, keep in mind that you can't touch that. You can't use that. That is your employer. That's a product of your employer. And they're the ones who have control, because 401ks are technically a tax break for those employers. With an IRA, you get the benefits. You're the one who has control of the money. It's accessible. I mean, you can start again with just $25, and you can have multiple accounts, and even have one for your children or your grandchildren, so that way their college is paid off. So what am I saying is that, hey, it's all right there in the show description and bio. There's the link. Go on their website, ask somebody to give you a call. No commitment. They'll give you just some really good information, maybe 30, 40 minutes of your time. I highly promise that it won't be a waste of your time. Also, the show is brought to you by Castle Global Services. Castle Global Services, they have an array of services both for your residential and commercial business. And right now we're in enrollment period. So one of the great products that they have is Impact Health Share. With Impact, it's health share, medical health share. So you can go see any medical doctor that you want to see. There's no copay. There's no network partners or any doctors that are through that organization. You can see anybody that you want. Okay, and you can ensure you have medical insurance for your family under $500. So it's right there. Go to castleglobalservices.acnibo.com. And on the services tab, you can go in residential or commercial. Again, get some information, no commitment, no nothing, but at least you have choices, because while, paying your over $800, $900 through your employer is just ridiculous for your family. Okay. Last, but, and another great thing is that we are also now sponsored by the VA. So here's an awesome message by Mike Richmond.
This message is from the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. Did you serve in the military? If so, you can obtain a free lifetime pass to more than 2,000 federal recreation sites. These sites are located across more than 400 million acres of public lands, including national parks, wildlife refuges, and forests. The lands host activities to fit any lifestyle: hiking, biking, fishing, camping, and much more. Gold Star families are also eligible for these free lifetime passes. Plus, they cover entrance fees for a driver and all passengers in a car, or up to 3 additional adults at sites that charge per person. Obtaining one is easy. Just go to the National Park Service website, nps.gov, or the National Park Service app.
Hey, you got to take advantage of all these great services by the VA. Plus, in addition to that, check out your state's website and see what other benefits that if you're 100% service connected, disabled, man, there's an array of other things like tax breaks on your home, fishing and gaming licenses, so on and so forth. So check it out, take advantage of it. Those benefits are for you, because goddamn, you earned them. Also, the show is brought to you by the Great American Constitution. The show wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for the things like the right to bear arms, as well as the freedom of speech, all that good stuff. So we're here in the show. I myself supported and defended our great Constitution for over 21 years, and I still do. So if you like this show, stick around, like, subscribe, and follow. And if not, then that's okay too. We can agree to disagree. Perhaps check something out from our awesome partners and the folks who support this show, sitchradio.com. They have some really cool stuff. And if you think you can do this, what I'm doing today, right here, right now, hey, give Brian Coburn drop him a line and he'll get you all set up. And maybe we could be fellow podcasters. I don't know, just an idea. So check it out. Well, I think that's pretty much all the pleasantries out of the way. Hey, look, we got a really awesome show. This guy that we came across this gentleman right over here, who I'm about to bring on the show. He's a TikToker. He's a veteran himself, but this guy is actually reaping the benefits of being a veteran, as well as traveling around the world and living on a budget, utilizing your VA benefits and connecting with countries that have these infrastructures already set. So, with that being said, let's bring in Mr. John Davis to the fold. The man, the myth, the legend. What's going on, brother?
It's awesome to be here with you, Pacho. I'm pumped to talk about veterans living abroad.
Hey, man. So first of all, I mean, obviously, let's do the thing that we all the service members do. What branch were you in? What was your MOS? Did you deploy? Did you not? Bases, blah, blah, blah. Go.
Well, I didn't like my intro because a TikToker, I don't know about that. I just got on TikTok last month. I'm a combat veteran from the Army. I went to Afghanistan. I have a master's degree from Harvard, and I'm an author where most of what I do is writing. I am on a mission right now to talk to veterans about how sometimes we can live healthier and happier outside of the United States while still receiving our VA benefits. A lot of veterans just don't understand how the process of living abroad works. But for a lot of veterans I see abroad, they're doing more than just surviving. They are living. So I'm on a mission to travel the world right now. I'm taking 2 years. I'm hitting up 10 countries. I'm living in each of them for a month, and I'm writing about my experiences there. So this week I am in Colombia, and a lot of people don't know in Colombia, you can get your service-connected healthcare in Medellin. So connecting with those type of resources and doing interviews with veterans on the ground. So last month I was in Mexico and interviewing a veteran who's utilizing his GI Bill there to learn Spanish. A lot of people don't understand how the GI Bill works abroad. So I'm writing content on my website and TikTok and Instagram on how veterans can move abroad and live healthier, happier, and sometimes a lot more fun lives.
Yeah, I think, and I come from that generation, and not to draw that line on the sand, whereas, we see the old movies like Heartbreak Ridge, and A Few Good Men. I mean, from that, and even older, where we see the old, I guess, connotation of an expat or an ex-military. He or she are living in the Philippines, living in a bungalow or some shit like that, and they're like the old,
like Rambo.
Yeah, like the old worn out dude that just that society threw away, and they live rough and maybe have 20, 30 kids, and that type of stuff. But in reality, it's not like that. So tell us, when you were in Mexico and you met this gentleman, what were some of the things that I guess he showed you as to utilizing the VA and his benefits, for him not only learn Spanish but other things.
For a lot of veterans, it's about finding a higher quality life. We all kind of know that the cost of living in the United States has gone up considerably, and this veteran is 100% from the VA, and he goes to school for the GI Bill. The GI Bill overseas living allowance is a flat $1,800. So it doesn't matter if you're going to school in Germany on the GI Bill on campus, or if you're going to Mexico on campus, it's a flat $1,800. So this veteran is getting about $6,000 a month and living in an area of Mexico. So he's living an extremely high quality life, being able to go out to eat, being able to go to the beach, being able to connect with nature. All of these things, while importantly disconnecting from the stress of the United States. So this is a guy, he was a Marine, serious combat in Iraq, and was kind of near his breaking point in the United States. ended up finding this living abroad thing in Mexico. He moved to Mexico, kind of left his life behind, and he's been there for a year and a half. And he showed me pictures of him before he went there and afterwards. And before he went, you can see him like kind of how the world in the military, beats you down. And then,
Right.
a year and a half later, he's thinner, he's healthier, he's walking more, he's eating higher quality food and away from like the fast food culture of the United States. So connecting with veterans like this has really been cool. And social media kind of allows me to do that. A lot of people don't know, but there's like Facebook groups for veterans in like every country. So here in Colombia, where I'm at now, there's actually a Facebook group of US veterans living in Colombia. And veterans there can connect, share resources, talk about, the type of issues expats face, which, can be a variety of things. Because I don't paint moving abroad as some like, oh, this is going to fix all your life. Obviously, there's a lot of challenges. A lot of veterans, for example, this veteran wants to learn Spanish. So he's living in Mexico, going to school, immersed in culture, learn Spanish. A lot of veterans were like, I don't want to learn any other language. So they go to like Belize or the Philippines or areas where there's a high concentration of English.
Right. No, and one of the things that for me, when I was, I struggle with this sometimes. Not as much anymore because I have my wife is a great support system. But and you hit on a point earlier is that you may move away, and you may have you there are some benefits to it to some degree. However, you just can't run away from your problems or whatever mental demons that you have. And that was something that I struggled with because I want to isolate it and run away. As I meant, I know before you and I spoke, I was born and raised in Colombia. I'm from Medellin, as a matter of fact. So I'm well aware of the clinic in Sabaneta, blah blah blah. But when I was in the Middle East working, or even before we went over there, my go-to thing was run away and hide. And I was going to go to Colombia and do my thing, become a hermit, whatever. But one friend of mine who does work, he's not in the military, but he does work with a lot of vets transitioning out of the service and other things. He did say, he's like, dude, you're going to go over there, but that's a destination addiction. How long will you is that sustainable is the bottom line? Because at the end of the day,
Right.
your problem, if you don't address whatever you got going on, it's still, you're still going to be dealing with battling those demons. Have you ran into that with other fellow vets in your travels so far?
Yeah, and you're right. You can't necessarily run away from your problems. But one thing I've been telling veterans lately is you can't heal in necessarily a toxic environment. So
True.
if your environment is toxic where you're at in the United States, then maybe, plants, veterans, people, you can't grow in toxicity. Sometimes in order to improve your life, you have to improve your environment. And living a higher quality life is just something that improves your mental health quite a bit. Because a lot of veterans, you talk to them in the States, they're struggling financially. And the reality is financial health is mental health. And if you're not stressed about your money, if you have enough money to pay the rent, so I live most of the time in Dominican Republic. My rent is $500 a month. Before I moved to Dominican Republic, my rent was $2,500 a month in Boston. So kind of having that financial freedom has given me a sense of mental health, I guess, freedom that I just didn't have in the United States, as well as things like political division also drive veterans out of the United States because we're used to such a communal, collaborative environment. And the United States has really kind of shifted into something like a individualistic or even hyper individualistic culture where veterans kind of value the communal value and community purpose and those types of things. So I think some of it is, getting away from the toxicity in the States as what's driving a lot of veterans abroad.
And one thing that I guess before we rolled into this, I mean, by the way, it's been a great subject. I guess what was the spark for you that you were like, shit, was it was it something internal going on where you're like, I need something better or my quality? I mean, well, I guess what was the spark for you? Because and before you answer that, just give me a minute. For us, we anchored ourselves to wherever we're at. Oh, and it's these mental anchors. Oh, it's the kids, it's the house. I get it with
Mhm.
kids. It's a little tricky, but nonetheless, my wife and I, when we went to work in the Middle East, once we sold everything and we went, I was like, holy shit, that, you know what? It wasn't that hard. It was, the hard part was just leaving. But for you, what was the spark, and was there anything anchoring you down mentally that before you went on this great walkabout that, that you're doing right now?
I will say that sometimes I tell veterans, hey, you don't own your stuff owns you. It's going to put you in a place. In the
100%.
military, we're kind of more suited to live internationally and live abroad than other people because we're already very well traveled. Any military career, especially, someone like you who do over 20 years, you're going to find yourself in a couple different countries, experiencing a few different cultures. You're also going to be more flexible and adaptable. A lot of veterans are more likely to speak multiple languages too than
Right.
your normal civilians. One of the things that I think is very important to kind of touch on when it comes to this is every veteran does have that kind of living abroad origin story, to where sometimes it's divorce. Like sometimes you're like, hey, like you mentioned, I got divorced. I want to move to the Philippines and live off my VA benefits, and that's okay too. There's nothing wrong with that. So a lot of the veterans I talk to, they're waiting for their kids to graduate high school, so developing like plans that are 3 years out on where they want to go. For me personally, I was living in Boston at the start of the pandemic, and I had a guy I deployed with, who I was in Afghanistan with, was Dominican, who when he got out of the military, he moved back to the Dominican Republic, and we stayed friends on social media and friendly and all that. And at the start of the pandemic in Boston, of course, they shut down the bars, then they shut down the gyms. And I'm
Yeah.
like, well, I don't know what else to do. Those are like my two. That's like all I do is bars and gyms. So I talked to him, and I'm stuck in my little apartment, and he's taking some Instagram photos on the beach. And I'm like, man, that looks nice. And he goes, come on down. And then so initially I bought a round trip ticket for 30 days. And so I went down and just kind of experienced this kind of like culture shock of, I guess you call it just like relaxation, like decompression. And
Oh
that's
yeah.
when I kind of realized, like, I have to take charge of my own therapy. And part of that is environmental. In the United States, I'm so used to like being around people and being friendly and shaking hands and giving hugs, especially as veterans. We're surrounded by people our entire military career.
Right.
And isolation is so much more dangerous for veterans than even combat is. So when I moved down to the Dominican Republic, I see people like, online, friends and family, whatever, they're like going through it in the States. I mean, everyone's, if they're not locked in their houses, they're outside screaming at each other, waving signs. And I have a beer in my hand and I'm on the beach swimming in the ocean. And that was kind of what opened my eyes. And then I discovered the veteran community. So in Dominican Republic, we have over 20,000 veterans that live there. So I just started meeting all these veterans. You go to expat areas, and I usually, like, if I have a veteran T-shirt on or something like that, then you start meeting veterans, forming a community, and now we have all these incredible veteran centers in the Dominican Republic that treat veterans through the program. So they put on like monthly barbecues, they put on excursions, they put on events. We do group therapy sitting by the pool. And when you conduct your therapy in a healing type environment like that, then it's really something that can create a lot of growth. So my origin story was beginning of the pandemic. And a lot of veterans living abroad origin story is the pandemic as well, because that's when, stress in America was kind of hitting an all-time high. And it's very difficult to heal yourself and to find growth if your environment is that kind of toxic and full of stress.
Yeah. And I think that whole lockdown thing, we are by nature, we're pack animals. I mean, that's,
Hmm.
and and again, us veterans, I mean, we roam in packs.
Yeah,
you know you
battle
know
buddies.
yeah, battle. I mean, that's instilled in us. Hey, where's your freaking battle buddy? What if PFC Davis get in fucking trouble this weekend? Where was your battle buddy there,
Yeah.
dipshit, blah blah blah. You know what I'm saying? So I know that it impacted me quite a bit. I mean, I was already kind of in my head already. And one thing that it also affected me too is that, because the weight, and again, as I don't know if it's being a former officer, whatever. But it's just because I kept thinking, like, how many other veterans, if I'm struggling right now at this fucking second, how many of my brothers and sisters are gonna be a casualty because of all this lockdown, especially if they in dire need of their therapies, of having that human interaction. Because while what we're doing right now, close bridges the gap in Zoom and all that stuff is great, not to knock it down. However, to be able to put your hand on that person's shoulder and say, "Fuck, dude, I'm struggling right now, bad," and to just that other person say, "Hey, it's gonna be okay. Quit being a bitch," or whatever.
Right.
It's tough. So
Well, I say, our government hasn't always necessarily kept its promises to us, but as veterans, we have to keep our promises to one another. So that's why, for me, it's more about providing the information to veterans so they can make the decision. Because a lot of veterans are simply unaware that they can get their VA healthcare outside the United States. A lot of veterans are unaware that TRICARE exists outside the United States. A lot of veterans are unaware they can even receive their VA disability living outside the United States. So for me, being able to provide that information for veterans and kind of like, here is, conversations with veterans who are doing it, who have made the jump, because that initial jump, like you mentioned, Pacho, is the most difficult. So now it's kind of like, I'm giving advice and kind of like coaching veterans on the moving abroad process, because it's something that you do have to do slightly gradually. So I always tell veterans like who want to move to Dominican Republic, come down here, take like extended trip for like 3 weeks, travel around a little bit, get to know the culture, get into it, meet some veterans, kind of figure out if it's for you, because living abroad is certainly not for everybody.
Right.
There's going to be, that's one thing that I think, I talk about living abroad on like social media. I don't think it's a cure all for everything. And like you mentioned, you can't just buy a plane ticket and escape your problems. And a lot of veterans who do move abroad, there are safety concerns and health concerns. A lot of veterans that I've seen living in Dominican Republic, they can't really get themselves off of vacation mode. They want to go out too much. They want to chase girls too much. And they kind of forget that you have to establish a healthy routine for yourself. And that's why like the veteran clinics in Dominican Republic are very good, because they help you maintain your health care, and making veteran connections helps you maintain your friendships. So I have a group of guys who are retired military, retired cops. We go out to dinner like twice a week, sit around a big table. So we form that community abroad. A community abroad is something you have to form for yourself. In the military, you're issued your friends and your community. Then we got in the civilian world, and we kind of find you have to do that for yourself. But when you're with other veterans, you're in an environment where you can go to the beach, because there's certain things that I think living abroad provides some good opportunities for, like nature therapy. So like once a month, I take veterans from the Dominican Republic, and we go out and we hike, and we swim in waterfalls, and we meditate outside, and we connect with these different forms of therapy, because the VA is only going to give you their forms of therapy. We have to create our own. Part of that is nature therapy. Part of it is getting out of unhealthy, toxic environments. And part of it is also embracing that life is an adventure. You can't, if you're a veteran, life is an adventure. You have to live an adventurous life. A lot of veterans get out of the military and they think, okay, I bounce around. I want to kind of just sit and relax. But travel therapy is a real form of therapy. I found that to be incredible for my own healing, to learn new things, to go new places, because the military kept me moving. So I was kind of like, okay, I might as well stay moving for a little bit longer.
Yeah. And, to your point, taking that step and going outside of your comfort zone to other places where, you can reap the benefits of a more calm lifestyle. And you're right. You have to establish some type of, not pattern. What is it? A routine. There you go.
Yeah.
Because, like you said, some people lose their fucking minds. Is the bottom line.
Yeah.
They'll go back to
Absolutely.
their old ways of risky behavior, whether male, female, whatever, and they're like, oh, hey, I'm just gonna cut loose and be with anybody and everybody and drink my and again, you're maybe at the same point you were back in the U.S. or maybe even further, because of all those things. So I mean, the concept here, the thought process is that, hey, you're upgrading in the sense that for a better lifestyle, in the sense that less stress, less this, less that, so that you can heal from within and work on yourself. It's not go over there and lose your fucking mind and then be broke, and waiting there for that VA paycheck to hit, and rinse and repeat. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and today's environment, you have a lot of veterans who are get out of the military, and just the working remotely is so much a part of the world now
Right.
since the pandemic. So if you can work remotely and you have your VA benefits and you have things like your VA and healthcare and all that stuff abroad, then sometimes it kind of makes sense to give it a shot. And that's why I tell veterans, like, okay, you can always move abroad, live abroad for like 3 months. Like, there's nothing wrong with being like, hey, I'm going to go spend like 3 months in Mexico and do like a personal mental health retreat. And that kind of gives you an idea if it's for you. And you can always go back. It's not like you buy a ticket and you're there forever.
Right.
But balancing those healthy and unhealthy behaviors is certainly very important. When you think about what kind of drives veterans outside the United States, it's kind of depressing. You think like, everyone is perfectly aware that 20 veterans kill themselves every day in the United States. And
Right.
I want to tell every one of those 20 veterans, hey, if, especially if you have your VA benefits, before you pull that trigger, before you take that pill, fly down to Dominican Republic. I'll put you on a beach. I'll give you a cold beer. We'll do some nature therapy. And that kind of stuff is what I eventually want to get into, is living abroad health retreats for veterans. So like next year, we're working on setting up a Dominican Republic veterans retreat and sponsoring it with some of the veteran centers there, to where we're going to pay for the veterans like stay. We're going to pay for them to do things like go get massages on the beach. We're going to pay for them to connect with nature. So all those types of things are kind of what I eventually want to turn this into. But for now, it's kind of like, hey, providing the information on individual countries for veterans so they can make the best decision for themselves, their families, their mental health. Because when I first started doing it, I'm kind of thinking like it's single family or single guys, single girls, veterans who are moving abroad. I'm a strict, no wife, no kids, no pets, no problems type of veteran. But not everyone's like that. And I'm surprised how many families have hit me up and asked me about international schools, asked me about TRICARE for spouses, asked me about resources for kids. So that's kind of been a big surprise for me, how many families are interested in moving abroad, information on moving abroad. Because initially I was thinking, mainly just single veterans. So when I was in Costa Rica, I went to international schools, talked to them, found out the prices, information, all those types of things to help veterans. Also, Costa Rica is one of the like safest countries for females in Latin America. So I had a lot of veterans getting out of the military, female veterans, message me like, hey, where should I go? So being able to provide that kind of information for veterans has been really rewarding for me, because all I want to do is pass along what helped me. And what helped me was escaping the stress and toxicity of the United States and moving to the Dominican Republic. I didn't think that I'd just end up, years later still living abroad. I did it mainly just to get a break. And then I came and I discovered kind of the laid back island culture. And it really struck me that I can provide information for veterans to do this, because I got into it just, I posted pictures of myself on the beach, and people were like, you're on the beach. And other veterans, yeah, I live in the Dominican Republic. And people were like, how do you do that? So I was talking about some of the immigration stuff, talking about some of the healthcare stuff, talking about the benefits and the pros and cons for veterans all over the world.
No, and definitely you and I will keep linked up, because the simple fact that I've been working towards having like a combat vet retreat at right there in Colombia.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll expand more on that as a side conversation. But definitely something that, because you're right. A lot of people want to pursue different things and experience different things. Something that maybe we could get these guys and gals back to somewhat of a healthy, productive mindset, where
Mm-hmm.
if they want to integrate back to their society, or whatever the case may be, they're on the right track and right path. But it all begins with self-work. One thing that I do want
Yeah.
to point out is that with people are concerned too about their pets. So I mean, and if anybody out there has any pets, I mean, I know everything about traveling to and from Colombia with to have a service dog. he goes with me to Colombia. I mean, I got that system dialed in, so
Yeah.
I'll share that stuff with you as well. And I guess just to wrap up, uh, what are some of the things that I guess briefly? What is the how can people begin on this venture once they figure out wherever they want to go? What are some of the things that they can do to get themselves on their way to transitioning to another place?
So on my Instagram and TikTok, I kind of provide some information, and then on my website, I have country guides. So a lot of veterans, what you can do is look up a cost of living calculator. So like numbeo.com is one I usually recommend, but there are lots of cost of living calculators where you can look up. Okay, I'm living in Chicago. What's the cost of living in Cancun? Or what's the cost of living in the Philippines? And you can kind of balance those side by side and get the information, the conversion rates. Okay, if you're 100% from the VA, what countries would that qualify to live very comfortably in? So there are countries that I recommend for veterans based on who has a good veteran population, who has healthcare access for veterans, who has like a lower cost of living. Everyone's aware that not everyone's aware. There's a VA in the Philippines. So the VA hospital in the Philippines, you can do anything you could do in the United States at a VA in the Philippines. Lots of people do not understand the foreign medical program of the VA. So I have social media videos explaining kind of how that works, how you can get healthcare abroad. In Dominican Republic, you pay nothing up front. You go there and they bill the VA. So you can basically just look at it like that. Like you go there, get your treatment, they bill the VA pays them. A lot of people don't understand how that kind of stuff works. Another thing that good resource to connect with is Facebook groups. So there's one Facebook group that I always recommend people go to. I don't have any affiliation with them. I just am a member. It's called U.S. Veterans and Military Retirees Living Overseas. And that's a group of veterans who are all over the world who kind of like, you have veterans living in Germany and they talk about things like space aid travel, which is also an important thing, kind of like your service dog, where those are resources that they have. As well as a community of veterans living all over the world. Veterans can message me. I'm traveling. I'm talking to veterans. I'm putting this message out. So I would say the cost of living calculator is a good point, and then connecting with other veterans living abroad. And we're fortunate, in some sense, we live in a social media age. You can talk to a veteran living in the Philippines and kind of get their input on things. You don't necessarily have to take my word for it, but I am posting more and more resources on my website, on social media, to give veterans I guess, open their eyes. It's not necessarily about, I think everyone should move abroad, because obviously that's not the best idea either.
Right.
But opening your eyes to the possibility of moving abroad, especially if you're like you and you already speak Spanish. It's like, that's half the work right there. You can go, you're good to go. For me, I've been struggling to learn Spanish for a number of years, and I'm there enough to where I'm comfortable. So there are some countries like Colombia where, a certain level of Spanish is going to be necessary. There's other places like Dominican Republic and expat areas, certain areas like Panama, certain areas, in Mexico, where maybe it's not necessarily as important to be fluent in Spanish.
Yeah, and thank God, I will tell you this, that thank God now, because I guess the technology and the internet, but even cable. I mean, I saw the progression. Again, I was born and raised in Colombia. I left as a preteen, and then the times that I would go back, you can see the progression because of cable, the introduction of cable. Where I mean, a large percentage of the population, not just in Colombia but around the world. I mean, English is pretty common. I mean, I run into guys in Colombia, cab drivers who. My wife is Japanese, and they'll bust out in Japanese, and I'm like, and I ask them, like, hey, how do you know Japanese? He goes, oh, I taught myself, watching TV, or I taught myself because of the internet. One guy spoke Japanese, French, and I forget in German, all self-taught. I was just like, holy shit,
Americans, the only people that only speak one language.
Yeah,
you go anywhere else, people speak. But English is the language that connects the world. Same as the dollar is a great currency. If you go to Japan tomorrow, you'll find people speak English. If you go to Mexico tomorrow, people speak English. Go to Brazil, English. Everywhere, English. So it's the best language to know if you do want to travel. And the dollar is obviously a great currency. And it's not only the language and stuff, it's the culture too. I mean, everyone watches Avengers movies and things like that.
So, John, as we're getting to wrap up the show, where is it that people can find more about you, more information? How can people link up with you? Give us all, basically this is your moment right here. So that way, we drive more people to hopefully opening up their mindset, maybe
Mhm.
serving some lives at the same time. You know what I'm saying?
So my TikTok that I just started last month is Combat Vet Abroad. My Instagram is John H. Davis Writer, and my website is www.johnhdaviswriter.com. That's where I have my blog, my Veterans Living Abroad articles, also my normal books. This is my latest book, 365 Days of Veteran Affirmations. It is a book
Nice.
full of affirmations written straight for veterans, veteran culture, veteran creeds, veteran values. So this is the first ever project of affirmations specifically for veterans. So something I'm super excited about. It's on Kindle for just $2.99, so you can have it on your phone or computer, and you can get a daily affirmation written in veteran culture.
And it's on Amazon, by the way. If you're like
Mhm.
myself that likes the crinkle of the real
Yeah.
pages, God damn it.
It could be at your house tomorrow if you click the button. And also,
like
hey, another thing about living abroad, I still get Amazon packages in Dominican Republic. It just takes a couple extra days. There's like mail forwarding services that a lot of people don't really know much about. So being able to talk to people about those type of kind of things, because we are in an international world, is important to know.
And by the way, Amazon just is already broke ground in Colombia. So because
There you
before it
go.
was through Mercado Libre, but now Amazon is also breaking ground, and they'll have an infrastructure over there as
Mhm.
well. So Jeff Bezos will take over the world next to
Yeah.
fucking Bill Gates. So, but John, it's been an honor and a pleasure, brother. Thanks so much for your service. We'll definitely, as a matter of fact, we'll keep scheduling you as you hop, from one country to the other. I know right now you just arrived in Colombia, so maybe we should schedule towards the end of the month as you're getting ready to, basically break your bivouac site down and pack.
That's what it is. Break down my Airbnb, but it's good because then I can provide information for veterans
Yeah.
on cost of living, experiences, and things like that. So it's been fun, and it's awesome connecting with veterans living abroad. I think that's been probably the most rewarding part of it. Just talking to these guys and girls who are living higher quality lives, and they're veterans. We help each other out. We're like the only population really there for each other. So I want to continue to try and do that, put out information to veterans about bettering your life by bettering your environment.
Well, I think this is a bromance in the making, so we'll definitely bring you back, brother. Thanks so much for your service. Thanks so much for your time, brother. And
Thanks, Pacho.
hey, we'll talk offline some more. Well, everybody, hey, if you want to hit up John, and if you ask some more questions, by all means, hit him up. Also, you can hit me as well. I did grow up in Colombia, and I do go over there quite a bit. But John is the man. And if you're ruminating and thinking some crazy shit and you want to, commit suicide, take your life, don't fucking do it. At least, give myself. Hey, John even threw himself in the mix. Give him a call, and maybe he'll get you down to where he's at and get your head all, in the right place. But, bottom line is it ain't going to bring you back if you take your life. All right. So with that being said, everybody, thanks so much. Thanks for being here. We're going to end this. Daisuki, Aistimas, adios, muchachos. See you next week. And remember, say goodbye to me because I got a fucked up knee. Yut!